Hello, everybody. My name is Lewis Lee, and like I say every week, this is Plan in Traffic, where we do this every Thursday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. So please share with your friends, anybody that's in the cars, boats, trucks, or anything you put gas in. Let them know that we talk about it here on Plan in Traffic. What's up, Ray?
And yeah, I am Ray Guarino from Motormouth Radio, and I'll say Lewis ain't lying. He says that every single week. You can
Every
count
week.
on it. If he doesn't, he's sick
Yeah,
or
I'm
not
not.
here
I'm under the weather.
or in the bus somewhere.
Yeah. How's your week?
Flew by again. Busy, busy, busy. I was in the shop almost. I was in the shop every day.
Yeah.
Uh, but I made some progress. When you're working on projects, be it at home or in the shop. See, I'm not under the gun like when customers' cars would come in a regular shop, you got to get them fixed and you got to get them out as
Mhm.
quick as possible because people need their cars, for work, school, all sorts of stuff.
Right.
But the work I'm doing is like classic car restoration, pretty much. So it's
Mhm.
always an open ended thing. We don't know how long it's going to take. Um, there's parts issues still. There's a lot of problems with parts. We've been dealing with OPGI. They just don't have stuff. Today I ordered a dipstick tube and a dipstick and a battery tray and small stuff. Now, back order, back order, back order, back order.
Yeah, I think they're still feeling it from COVID. A lot
I
of
hate
companies
this.
haven't got
Yeah,
back to 100% yet.
I hate to say that because what it means is that Chinese supplier is dropping the ball,
Hmm. Yep.
and that really bothers me. It really does. Um, but even I waited for a set of brake shoes for like 3 days, 3 or 4 days before the place dropped them off. Like, dude, they're brake shoes. Come on.
Yeah.
So we get into that stuff all the time, which is it's a problem. So I did make a lot of progress. You can tell when a project is getting ready to be done because you just see it. And I knew this was the week that this 442 was going to start up. And I
Mhm.
posted it. I put it on Motormouth Radio on Facebook and real_Motormouth Radio on Instagram. I just put a quick video up. And it fired up and I ran it with just the exhaust manifold. So it sounds like a pissed off dragon, like
Yeah.
inside the shop, it's blah, 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 blah. Sounds great. Sounds great. And then you get the paint burning off. Oh, I love the smell of, it's like when you would gunk an engine back in the
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
or you'd paint your headers and all, and you always had either that smell of fresh paint or that smell of gunk for like a day or two.
Yeah.
Those are good smells, you know.
Let you know you did something right.
Those are good, positive, happy smells in my book. Yeah.
Yep.
So we were at that point, and now, the car's got to go over to an exhaust shop, and they're going to do the down the block. They're going to put the exhaust. That won't be till next week.
Mhm.
So I'll test drive it before then because I was going to take it out today, but it was a little drizzly, and the car's got old tires on it, so I knew I'd end up into a pole or somebody's front yard. So
Right. Right.
we better wait till it dries out a little. Um,
So,
and
so
now, my buddy runs the shop, tells me, "Oh, guess what? One of my other friends, uh, his brother-in-law just unearthed this '67 T-Bird
hmm,
that was a family relic. It's been in the garage upstate for 20 some odd years, and he wants to bring it down so we can get it back on the road." I was like, "Oh boy, here we go all over again." And people think it means like, "Oh yeah, well I know we're gonna need a tune-up, and I'm gonna need new tires, and got to clean the interior, and we should be good to go." And
oh,
the first things I think of is taking out the gas tank, seeing if it's rotted, looking at the fuel lines, look, the brake system is going to be toast,
yeah.
all that underside infrastructure. And I know you got to count that pretty much it's all going to be bad,
Yeah.
you know. So here we go again.
So your buddy that owns the shop, he has like the best of both worlds. He has a retired guy that can come in and knows what he's doing and work on stuff at his leisure. That's
Yeah, and I
great.
talk to that guy all the time because he knows a lot of stuff. So he really helps me out. So
Yeah.
no, I'll tell you something. That's why he hired me. I mean, I've been working for him for 7 years. Before I retired, I was working for him.
Mhm.
I'd come in after work and on the weekends. And I really was hired to work on his cars. He had a couple cars he wanted to restore. And even though he has a body shop and the body work and all the panel stuff and all the hard stuff went through those guys, I was there to do all the mechanical and electrical and whatever. So, I did the other big part of it. And then they started sending me cars from the shop. Like they get a late model car in that was hit. And it's like, all right, well, we got the body stripped apart. We're waiting on parts. It needs, tie rod end, strut, axle, and brakes. They send it over to me and say, hey, can you just, change this stuff? I was like, oh, shit. Now I'm working on like late model cars. I'm working on Audis and Mercedes. And I'm like, Brian, help me, dude, man, because these tools I have don't work on these new cars. I need some new stuff. And it's crazy. You need a whole nother set of tools to work on the new cars.
Yeah.
And luckily that they did that to me for a while and then it slowed down. I think they hired another guy at the shop.
Well,
so I don't have that anymore. And then, what would happen on the other side was when the stuff got done and finished, I had nothing to do. So I stayed home, so there was times where I didn't go in because there was nothing to work on. I kind of felt divorced. It was weird. All my stuff was there and, I could go in whenever I want. I can use the shop also, but it was strange. Now I've been there a lot more often. So I kind of like that in a way. I hate going, I'm weird like that. Like I hate having to go somewhere to be somewhere to do something like that, like work.
Like you have to be, yeah.
I do like getting paid and I like it when I'm there. I just hate that I have to go somewhere. And I hated that about regular work too. That's what got me after a while, Lewis, was it wasn't the job. I liked my job. The people sucked for the most part, but it was just having to be there at a certain time.
Yeah.
That's what really was my bane in the last few years. And even now, I make my own hours. I could go in now if I wanted to, and work on a car. I got the keys to shop, got the code. I could work. I go in on weekends all the time. I go in on Thanksgiving early in the day, when there's nothing going on at home. But during the week, it's kind of like I feel like I'm part of that work schedule, and it's kind of like, I kind of resist it. Us retired guys, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm starting to learn.
yeah, you will. It will. So, I mean, not everybody's like that. That's my own little, thing,
Yeah,
but.
That's great. I'm glad that you're staying busy in something you like.
Right.
You got guys that got to go to Walmart. You know what I mean?
Well, like you said, the good thing is, it's something I've done all my life. I still like doing it. I tell you the God's honest truth. The guy that owns the shop, he's just a couple of years younger than me. And we sit there and say, hey, what are we at this age? What are we doing this stuff? Like every job I had, there was always the old guy that was probably my age or younger that was in the shop. And we always said, yeah, what the hell is he still doing here, man? The guy can't he enjoy his retirement? But the fact is, if you love what you do, you really don't, it's not a bad time. I call it practice,
Yep.
I mean, I was working on this Oldsmobile. Now, I've been a kind of a GM guy all my life. Yeah, I've worked on Fords, Chryslers, and even some foreign stuff. But for the most part, I've always been a GM guy, basically Chevy, Pontiacs, Caddy. I'm looking at this car yesterday. I had to put belts on it. I'm like, power steering pumps are always a little bit of a pain in the ass. The way they put the nuts or the bolts there, and they're kind of in the back there, always a little hidden. And this one, I couldn't find how to loosen the pump to loosen the belt. So I found one nut in the back that I got onto, and I loosened that. That didn't. And I'm looking and looking. I couldn't find it. There was just nothing there. And finally, I found them. There were two. I guess they were bolts that are between the pulley and the body of the pump. So you have to go up in between there. And I am sure, I'm going to look at my Buick may be saying, I am sure that GM had special wrenches to do that with. And I had once I figured it out, I had to improvise because most of the wrenches I had, they were too fat to get up in there. There's not a lot of space. And I have thin wrenches that are made for thin places, but you can't put a lot of torque on them to break something loose or tighten something. They're not made for that. So it was an ordeal. And, once I sat there scratching my head saying, okay, smart guy,
Now
How
what?
do you put a belt on this car? And I'm like, it can't be that hard. People have been doing it, forever. But damn, it put me to the test. And and then of course you're happy when you figure it out. You didn't break anything.
Yeah.
But man, I hope I don't have to do another one of them soon.
Oh, so today my son brings over his mother-in-law's Cadillac. It's a 2000
Okay.
with a bad headlight. Do you know you have to take half that car apart to get the headlight out?
A lot of cars, you got to take the bumper off. The grill comes out sometimes. Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I took
I know.
out, those plastic push pins.
Yeah.
I probably took out 12 of those. And that's before I got to anything else to take the nuts and bolts off. It was unbelievable. It made me so mad that they did that.
Yep. That's one of the benefits I have is the main shop is a body shop, and the shop that I'm at is an adjunct. So they do. Well, I had a guy who was doing body work. Now there's a guy there who does polishing and all, but they're always taking bumpers and fenders and hoods off. So I watch them and I've asked them sometimes, like, show me how you do that. I don't know how to, I don't know how you do that. That was kind of funny. So I was watching a video last night, a fail video, and people were at like an animal park, and this bear walked up to this car and just kind of grabbed the bumper and ripped it. Like, I said, that's how you take it off. The bear just ripped this thing off the car. But yeah, it's all plastic. And Brian will tell you about this too. I know on the BMWs, and I'm not sure what other cars, they have nuts that are on studs that are like this long, and the nut is way down. So they sell. I bought a set of sockets from Brian that were like 6 inches long, and now I hear there's ones that are even longer than that because you got to go through the wheel well, through an opening. Now, if you don't know where they are, you'll never get the ends of those bumpers off.
Wow.
Never. So
I couldn't believe it.
It's crazy. These guys keep up on this stuff, and they learn as new cars come out. They learn it. I give them a lot of credit. I really do. I mean, half of them can't speak English, but they can dismantle a car, and they have piles of. You look at the pile on their cart, and it's nothing but clips, screws, pieces of shit, and they put it all back together. I'm like, man,
I was proud of myself that I didn't have any of those little clips left.
Yeah. Well, it happens a lot. A lot of them break. Now, some of them are not supposed to break, but they get forced the wrong way. I mean, I've asked guys like, hey, I can't get this panel. I have the screws out, and they just get in there, like sometimes with a tool or with their hand, and you hear it just crack, and they rip it off. Like, that's what you got to do, because there's some two pins that pushed into another sockets. I was like, dude, that's what you got to do. It's like barbaric,
Really nice car though. 2000. It has 120,000 miles on it. Car is clean. It's just a nice car. Whoever had it before she's had it for a couple years now, but whoever had it before her, man, they really took care of this car.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say is that's why when you get a car in, it's going to have any panel work on the list. They'll list all the clips, and they'll that's paid for. So that's how these shops end up getting tons and tons of extra brand new clips, because if they can reuse the old ones, they just put the new ones in boxes. Or
that's a good idea.
There's catalogs. I've seen them, catalogs with nothing but clips and fasteners, for the body shop trade. It's crazy.
I wonder when they started getting into using those. Probably mid 80s, huh?
In the 80s, yeah. Yeah, when plastic started getting real popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
maybe even in the late 70s on some cars. Yeah. There was a lot of plastic then in the late 70s.
All I was thinking is, I've had cars that you open the hood, you got two little clips, you pull them up, and the whole light comes out.
Yeah.
And then you got 2000 that you got to take half the car apart. I'm like, wow, they went backwards.
Yeah. My daughter's RAV4, she had a headlight out. And I said, no sweat. I'll get an H4 bulb, throw it in, and I'm looking. And it was not easy to get to. And I actually looked it up, and they said, remove the bumper cover, and all of this, and take the whole housing out. I'm like, get the hell out. Well, I did it without doing that. I used all every spidey sense I had and every trick in the book, and I did get it out. I changed the bulb without taking the housing out, but I wasn't about to go that far. That was crazy. But so sometimes you can do that. Other times the geometry is such that you just can't. You can't. You got to just you got to take off what's got to come off. So,
So I'm getting geared up for my media company. I'm getting that all straightened up and get my ducks in a row. So
nice.
I won't drive myself crazy looking at myself on the couch.
That's cool. I was telling my buddy, a guy at the shop, the owner. I don't know how it came up. We're talking about something. I got talking about your bus, about the bus project. So I told him where to check it out. He's like, he did what? So he's a body man. He's been a body man since the 70s. He came up the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
And I explained to him what you did with the bus. And he says, he thought first that like you lowered it. I'm like, no. I said, Luz is a tall boy. I said, he needed space. He raised it. Right. He's like, how the hell? I'm like, check out the videos. I said, I gave us a link. I said, check it out, see for yourself. I said, you'll look at the early stuff and then skip ahead to the current stuff, and you'll be amazed when you see the transformation, So he was very, very impressed. And then one of the other guys, one of his friends was there and says he was talking about how, there's a whole big thing with that now. They're all over the place. And,
it really is. There's a lot of people doing it.
Yeah.
I watched a guy the other day, and he just started his build probably like 6 months ago.
Uh-huh.
And he's doing everything wrong. Not that I did everything right, but there's so many people on that you can go look at and figure out stuff. He's just doing everything on the fly. Like I don't think he looked at anybody's videos.
Really?
He's building these big rigs to lift. He raised his roof too, but man, I bet you he spent $500 on wood just to build jigs.
Wow.
Yeah, just outrageous stuff. I'm like, oh my God, bro, watch some videos. Because these guys got it down to a science.
Yeah.
When I watched a couple guys doing a roof raiser. So when all the fellas came into town, I knew, I had everything already ready. I'm like, this is exactly how we do it. And everybody was like, okay, let's go. And it went up. Ray, when I tell you, when we lifted this roof 18 inches, it didn't move an eighth of an inch either way.
Wow, that's great. Yeah.
And we welded it back up, and that was it.
That's so easy. That's it. When you get people who, I was going to say know what they're doing, you're in uncharted territory. But when you get guys who are mechanically inclined and who are craftsmen and do work like that, your chances of an easy go and success are a lot better.
I tell you, Arco is no joke. Arco knows his stuff, man. Just every part. It was like he watched all the videos. He asked me a couple questions, but he really didn't need to know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, there's a guy with just that kind of that inborn knowledge, he just kind of and his experience. I was just asked by a guy at the shop, the main shop. He knows a guy whose father-in-law is retiring, and the guy wants to get a project car. And God help him, he wants a Project Mustang. And man, I had my share of Project Mustangs. I haven't seen one of them yet that's been really, really nice or easy or, affordable. So I actually called the guy. I had the guy's son-in-law. I called him and talked to him yesterday, and I was trying to explain to him, your father-in-law just retired. He's 66. He's probably got some dough. He should probably buy, you should always buy the best car you can afford and start from there and go forward. And if it's done and maybe just needs paint, great. Paint's going to be 10, 20 grand, but at least, you could drive it in primer. But if the mechanicals are done, body work is done, you're ahead of the game there. So I quizzed him a little bit, and this guy isn't a car guy, but I said, what did your father-in-law do for a living? Oh, he's an engineer. So the guy, he can fix, we call him MacGyver because he can fix anything, make anything work. I'm like, okay, good start. that's the right profile. I want to hear that. But it ends up he was a civil engineer. He worked on bridges and roads. I said, okay, your father was a civil engineer. I said, that's a lot different than a mechanical or an electrical engineer.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not knocking him. I'm not putting him down, mind you. Don't get that. But, he can measure shit, and he can give you, a length within 2 degrees and 3 seconds. I mean, he can give you a perfect azimuth on a curve. I said, but that doesn't mean it doesn't necessarily translate. So I want to talk to him. I said, have your father-in-law get in touch with me because I want to try and talk him out of this. Well, what do you want to do that for? I said, because I don't want to see another guy get let down and then be stuck with something he can't get rid of. I'd rather try and get him on the right path the first time, So I haven't talked to the guy yet, but, hopefully that'll happen. And I see too many people get into that. I worked on cars. Yeah, when I was in high school and when I was in college, I used to do all my own oil changes. I can hand. Hey, okay.
Different boat when you get in there.
Yeah, man, I was a college football star. So let's go out and play a pickup game, with the kids. Like, right. Shoulder, back, arms. Yeah, Al Bundy, you're screwed. So, and people don't realize it. We don't realize as we're getting older. I mean, I'm very aware of it when I work on a car that, now
move like you used to.
I can't. And I know it every time I got to bend down and pick something up.
Yep.
So now I got a magnet that I open it up. And that's what I use.
Yeah, quick draw poster with a magnet.
Right. That's what you need.
One of my buddies, I talked to him today, or not today, a couple days ago. And he just bought a 65 convertible Mustang. Real nice. And it's the same guy that I talked about a couple times here. He bought the Monte Carlo 70 Monte Carlo on eBay.
Okay.
And it was a really nice car, but he sold that and bought this convertible Mustang. It's really nice.
We my buddy Rick has a really nice 66, and I'm trying to convince this civil engineer to buy it because I said, it's a white car, white top, red interior. It's got the pony interior.
Yeah.
The detraction for a lot of people is it's a 6-cylinder automatic. It's not an 8. But as far as cruisability goes, the car is spot on. It's got disc brakes in the front.
Yeah.
What do you got? Show me. Oh, sweet. Nice. That looks nice.
Yeah.
That looks very nice. But, I've been around a little too long to realize it just because that looks nice.
Right.
You don't know what's under it.
Yeah, he's a really good mechanic and stuff, too. So I'm sure he really dug into it before he picked it up, before he took it.
I found out that those Mustangs hide a lot of hidden sins. Luckily, Brian has been helping me out a lot with stuff like that.
Yeah.
What's hidden and what's not. Boy, he gave me all close-ups, but like that's the interior of that car.
Right.
Red on white. It is.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
A real nice. It's a nice cruiser. Very nice cruiser. So, the point I would make to this guy is this car is all done. He's got a 4-inch binder in the trunk that because he didn't have it restored, he bought it restored, and the 4-inch binder has pictures and every receipt and documentation from the whole restoration, so you can see exactly what was done, and that's reassuring. That's money in the bank. Because the Mustang that I have at the shop that the guy bought off of eBay out of Alabama, I call it the Mudstang because the whole bottom has got mud all over. It's got these weird goober gobber nests in. I don't know what the hell it is. He took it for a drive last Saturday for the first time, and I followed him in my Fiat because he had no brake lights. And I got next to it at one point, and he's doing this with the steering wheel. He's like, "Wow, Ray," he goes, I know you said the power steering there was something messed up." I was like, "Hold on. That's not your power steering doing that. That's your steering box. Your box has a lot of play in it." "Oh, can we fix that?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I didn't look at it. It wasn't on my list." So already he's already going thinking, I want to buy electric steering for the car, and he wanted to buy electric brakes. And I said, All of that on a 32 amp alternator, huh? I was like, dude, you're gonna need a bigger battery and a bigger alternator, you and better wiring.
Yeah.
You got
People don't understand that. They're used to driving their Mercedes, like you said, and then they get in their old car and like, wait a minute, this thing rides terrible.
and kind of the problem I have with this guy is then he'll tell me, okay, can we just order that? And can you do that? I'm like, wow, to say it is one thing, to do it is quite another. You're really rebuilding big parts of that car. And I told him, I said, I tried selling him that 66. I said, you should sell this thing for whatever you can get for it and buy something else. Use us as your sounding board and we'll, and to look at things for you. And at least you'll get something, his whole under the cowl, that whole area under there is all rotted out. It's bad. And he decided he's going to have it fixed, which is a major job. And I said, yeah, do that before you do anything to the body because this all has to get cut off and peel back.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, okay, I'm going to do that. And I said to him, instead of doing that, why not invest in a car that's already had it done or doesn't need it? It's harder to find one that has had it done than doesn't need it, but they're out there.
What was his answer?
He said, no, I like this car. And truthfully, the more he gets into it for money, I mean, it gets harder to get out of it because you're not going to get the money back.
Yeah.
So I was trying to stop him before he went over the cliff, and
he went over both feet, huh?
well, yeah, he did a disc brake conversion. I mean, I got to tally my hours now. I mean, I don't know. I got to see what they're going to pay me for my labor. I've put a bunch of labor into that car already.
Yeah.
He's got to pay for that, and but he isn't like anytime I to tell him, look, we need this. Great, I'll get it. I told him, I said, look, you see, I was trying to show him one day. I said, just so you know, look at the wires under the hood, the wires to the alternator or regulator. I said, they look okay, right? I said, but if I pick up one of these wires, if I bend it, it doesn't bend like spaghetti. It's going to crack. And there was one that it was a dead end wire. So I said, this wire doesn't go anywhere. And I did. I cracked, the insulation cracked. I said, all the wires are like that. I said, that's going to be a point of failure. And he said, should I order a painless wiring harness for the car?
It must be nice.
I know guys who'll do anything not to have to order a painless wire. So he's into spending the money.
Yeah. It must be nice.
I know.
I love spending other people's money. If he's like, I'll order it, okay.
And I'm trying to tell him, look, in my experience, I don't think this car warrants that kind of luxury. Put that into a car that's, that's in better shape. So, these are the things. You end up being a kind of like a therapist as much as a mechanic.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, until now, I never talked or saw any of the car owners. Only with these last two guys did I actually meet them and get to talk to them. And I think I'd rather not meet them.
Yeah.
It's like a doctor. Doctors work on people all the time, and patients die, and doctors have a hard time with that. I'm sure if they could just work on people without knowing them, it'd be a lot easier.
Yeah. That's bad feeling, ain't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that you have to get over and realize it's just a part of the job. Yeah. It goes along with the job. There's babies being born, people's lives being saved, and people are dying. So it all comes and goes with the territory, But
let's get the fellas in and see what they're talking about this evening.
What's up, guys?
There's my YouTube commenter. What's up, Pete?
Yeah. Hey, try.
Have we heard from Papa Squirrel? Anybody?
Nope.
Yeah, check on him, man. Let's see where. He hasn't been on about 3-4 weeks, huh?
It's been a while, yeah.
Oh, shit. I know Debbie's posting stuff, but
Keith had 100 some odd views on Marty Shaw's video, which is great. And like I think you're the only comment. I'm like, all these people are, and they all like it. It's like, dude, if you like it, just say something. Say, hey, good job. Nice, do another one. Anything,
It's good for the algorithm. We get some engagement going.
And what pisses me off is a lot of these people probably use YouTube too, and they may even know that. You know, I
Yeah.
try to leave a comment, even if it's just something stupid. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that watch the YouTube videos and they don't even subscribe. I have like 90% people watch the videos that don't subscribe.
you know,
I'm like, it's crazy.
a lot of channels I watch, guys will do that and they'll actually
Yep.
show the screen and say, look at this. I got
Yeah.
like, 15% subscribed
Yeah.
and, 85%. And it seems to be the trend where more, now, I don't, there are a couple channels I watch that I haven't subscribed to. And then after a while, I'll either throw them a subscription because I'm in,
Yeah.
or I'll say, okay, you know what, it's it wasn't what I thought. But it's like a trial period. But
Yeah. If you watch the channel all the time, you might as well just subscribe. That's
Right.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat too. Like, I think mine is 92% of the people don't.
Yeah, they don't subscribe.
it's not you. It's not you, because what I'm
Yeah.
seeing, everybody has this problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the big guys, even they have 1 million subscribers already, and they like, look, 90% of people. I'm like,
Right.
yep, it's just how it is, I guess. People don't.
Jim Morrison said it. People are strange.
Yeah, people are strange.
Brian, you're back in the dungeon again.
Yeah. Yep.
Good.
Wife's home.
The wife's been home. I just I was lazy, but I'm trying to repair this 1/2-inch battery gun, and I don't have a lot of luck with battery stuff.
What's the problem with the gun?
He broke the shaft coming out of the motor.
Oh shit!
And
So, did you get an armature with a shaft?
well, it's you can't take the motor apart.
So, but the shaft is attached to the motor, so you have to take. I'm saying the motor. What I'm saying is that the center, the piece that turns, is the armature.
Yeah.
Well, see the
So that's why he broke.
the end broke off. Here.
Okay. So
And it doesn't come apart.
it should, because that armature spins. So that's inside of a set of field coils, like a starter motor.
She just pull
Is it a
right out.
brushless motor?
It's a brushless motor, yeah.
Okay. It's still an armature and a field coil. That's how you make magnetism. That's how you make it go. But what I'm saying is, it could be that they seal it at the factory. Maybe when they manufacture it, they may have a way of that, like that last step may crimp the plate on there, and that's it. It's, but then in that case, I would imagine they wouldn't sell a replacement part unless it was the whole motor.
Whole motor, yeah.
Probably the whole motor.
Yeah, man. How did he break the
You
shaft?
motherfucker.
How do you? Is that
He just got it out.
there you go. Yeah.
You just gotta.
So hold on.
You son of a bitch.
So
You
hold
just have
that
to
up.
overcome
That's-
the magnetism, right?
That's a typical armature. Hold it up, Brian.
Well, that's a brushless armature. So the armature is the magnet, and the coils
armature
are on the.
Yeah. There's no it's
Yeah,
And
well,
then
what
you have the inside.
brushless means is there's no. Yeah, that's the field coil.
Right.
There's no commutator, so there's no brushes. It's right. That's what brushless means, but it's still the same principle
right,
with
you
an
son
armature
of
and a field coil.
It's the same principle, but it's the opposite of a regular motor. Like a regular motor, the magnets would be in the can, and the armature has the wire rounds.
Yeah, and
Brushless motor is the opposite way. The magnet's the armature, and the wire rounds are on the stator.
Right. It's like
You son
like
of
an
a
alternator on a motorcycle is that way. The stator is stationary, and the armature spins.
Mhm. Only reason I'm saying I had to put one on my bike one time, and
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
never knew anything about that stuff.
right. But that was probably
Well-
the magnetism that held it in place.
And those are some strong magnets.
You should.
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, on the old stuff, the ones with the brushes, I've taken them apart and I've had shit explode and stuff go all over the place, because the little springs or whatever, and I was
Yeah.
pulling and playing, and actually I had another one that had a bad trigger, and I took that one apart to pull apart. But see, the big problem is the way the trigger and everything is in. You can't. They used to have this unplugged, but this is all hard soldered in.
Yeah.
And I really didn't want to try to solder. I didn't have another circuit board if I F something up.
Oh, that's the stuff I take apart. That's the stuff I fire up and I take apart all the time.
Well, Ray, I'm telling you right now, you or me or somehow we have to move a little closer. We're close,
Yeah, right.
but not
Yeah.
close enough.
Right,
So that
right,
I can
right.
just say, after dinner, I can say, hey, I got to run over to Ray's for a minute.
And
know what I'm saying?
it's true because when I was working on this freaking power steering pump, I know Matco has a set of wrenches. They're really long and they're zero offset. And I said, depending on the thickness of that wrench, that's exactly what I needed to get in there. And I don't have them, but I know who does.
I said that to
I'm
Terry all the
surprised that
time.
the pulley doesn't come off. The steering pulley doesn't press on, press off.
You know
That's
what?
usually how a lot of them have to go to get.
I'll tell you that. Well, okay, I didn't look at that, but think of it. That wouldn't help you because you need the pulley on to have the belt on to adjust the belt. I was trying to loosen the pump, so that wouldn't help. Yeah, and speaking of Terry, Terry hooked me up with one of his buddies that had a free engine for the car we just picked up. We picked up a Le Mans convertible. We're going to build at the shop, and his buddy had an engine, so we went up there last Thursday, in fact, and picked it up. And it ends up that this guy, Tom, I asked him, I said, you're retired, Tom. What do you do for a living? And he said, I was an engineer at IBM for 25 years. He goes, I had a desk job at IBM for like 35 years. And with that, my buddy Mike across the driveway, he's strapping the engine down. He says, what? IBM? He goes, not a guy named Ronnie? He goes, Ronzoni? He goes, God, the guy's my best friend. I worked with him for 25 years. So Mike had just hired him to run his body shop upstate.
Oh,
He
wow.
says, damn, I know his brother. I just hired him. So we made like 3 degrees of separation around Terry in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And we're going to get together. I told him, I said, we should all get together up there with our cars and go bomb, roll up on Terry.
Very cool.
That's
Terry's
crazy.
pretty close to getting his Chevelle out.
Yeah, he won't be home. I'm sure when we do that, like he'd be out. He'll be in Ohio. He'll be somewhere else. He's never home.
Yeah, he's on the move. His
That
Chevelle's
boy
coming
don't
out
sit.
tonight. Yeah, we say that all the time. That man, wish you were a little closer. Everybody's spread apart.
Right.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
I'll tell you the truth. When I talk about this show to people, I say that's one of the real nice things about it is that there's a bunch of us all across the country sharing ideas and experiences. But then on the other hand, it's like, I wish some of these guys were closer though, so I could, you could actually interact a little better.
That's what's
Right.
nice about SEMA. I meet up with a lot of people at SEMA, and it's really nice to hang out with like Papa Squirrel and Debbie. We see them every year, and it's nice just to let your hair down.
Sure.
But it would be real nice to go to people's houses or garages and help them, help them do something, or
Right.
like
Yeah.
Brian, like we go to his house and put his car back together.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one Mustang I have good thoughts and faith in. Good thoughts for. That one's going to be a good one.
Yep. So I'm free spirit now. So if I'm rolling down that way, I might pull in the driveway.
Yeah.
My duct tape
Well,
picks you right up, buddy.
I would say I do it in a heartbeat. Okay. But I have to be able. Even if there was only 2 of you that came, I would have to make sure I had enough room so we can walk around. And it's getting better, but it's not there yet.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second.
It ain't there yet. I
I
still
gotta
have a
call.
lot of stuff that I've been going through.
Let
tell you, it's amazing. I think I've gone through I'm going through boxes, and I'm back to 2001. Stuff that was packed up, and I'm finding stuff, paperwork from like 2001.
Wow.
So
I'm not sure
that's
you
like
need this stuff anymore.
halfway through the garage. So I got a lot of shit.
Well, I'm supposed to be moving, and my buddy Mikey Chevelle came over here the other night to pick up some stuff, and he's in the garage with me looking around. He's like, "Wow, dude." I said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "It's kind of like a playland in here." I said, "People just come and they stare." He says, "Yeah, I'm sure every time I come back, I'll see something different." I'm like, "Yeah, there's a lot of stuff." He goes, "You got a lot of stuff in here." And then my wife, she says, I went out in the garage the other day to turn the radio on, sit on the deck. She goes, "I'm looking around in there." She goes, "I went in the shed, I'm looking in there." She goes, "I want to go down to the basement, I'm looking around in there." And she's like, "How the hell are you going to move this stuff? Like, how are you physically?" Like, I don't know. I just don't know. I told her, I said, "I got a lot of stuff in the garage, supplies. I could take them down off the shelf, put them into boxes to be moved." I said, "But where do I put the box?" I said, "I got nowhere to put the box." So it's counterproductive to take it off the shelf right now.
Yeah. So what happens to me is, I'm working by myself, so I get like Brian. I got stuff everywhere. You gotta move 10 things to get to one thing. So what happens is, like, my son will come over and I'll say, "Hey, I need help with one thing," and so I'll start doing that, and he'll say, "Dad, you want me to help you with anything else?" And I'm like, "Well, let's move this." And before we know it, we're in the garage, moving
Hours later.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you get people over to the house and they're willing to work with you, that's the time to do it.
Yeah.
Because they kind of motivate you to help you get motivated.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But it's unbelievable how much stuff you collect in a short period of time.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've done it once and I've done it twice. But you still like, it was like when I sold my F-350, the guy came and he goes, "What's all the stuff in the back?" I said, "That's everything that went to that truck. Here's an extra set of here's some brake pads. Here's oil filter. Here's fuel filters. Here is, I had, it was a case of oil filters, a case of fuel filters, both fuel, upper and lower. I had a drive belt. I had an extra radiator. I had front and rear pads. I had a caliper.
He was loving you.
2 alternators and a starter.
Nice.
And the guy goes, "Well, I said, "Look, dude," I said, my wife had a 6.0. I had a 6.0. These are things over the years when we had. I said, "This is gone." I said, "I have a set of brake pads and brake shoes and a water pump from the 79 Suburban that I used to have sitting on the shelf."
Yeah.
I said, "Dude, just take it." And he goes, "Well, you want anything extra for?" I said, No, it's all with the truck, dude. Just take it.
Get out of here.
Now, unless I go out and buy another 6.0, I'll be kind of pissed off. But
Yeah.
I'll never need another oil filter again for a 6.0.
Right.
Yeah.
So he was a little excited. He was like, "Oh yeah, if you find anything else," and I was like, "Dude, just here."
Yeah.
And and I guess that'll be the same thing today if I ever when I get rid of the Isuzu, the tool truck, because I got pads, I got 2 extra alternators here, I've got you name it, and all the fluids, filters, because if it gets broke, alternator belts. Because, like I said, if I have to fix something in the middle of the night to have the truck ready for the next day, I can't wait. I have it.
So I got a question for you guys. I'm thinking about adding the alternator to the bus, and it's out of my wheelhouse. Have anybody ever done that? Added an extra alternator onto a vehicle?
Yeah.
I haven't had to physically do it, but I've worked with a guy on the electrical end. One of the biggest hurdles is the bracketry. You have to be able to mount it.
Mhm.
Electrically, it's not that bad, really, because you have a circuit already there, already in place. It depends if you want to run them concurrently or have it switched. You can do that too.
Well, what I'm doing is I'm going to run that to my solar system, to my DC to DC charge controller. So instead of running off my drive alternator, I want to run it off a separate alternator that's just dedicated for solar.
And do you want to do that while you're driving or while you're driving? Okay. Well, if your bus has a PTO off the transmission, it might have a cover plate. Some of them, like my tool truck, has a cover plate, and I can take the plate and buy a PTO unit, and you can drive it. You can run it off the transmission. A lot of guys will run them off a drive shaft.
Just gonna say that.
So it only comes off when you're running on there, and that way you're only making one bracket. You go and get the pulley welded onto the drive shaft. You have to have a balance, but you put it on. You have one bracket, you have an alternator there, and you run the power right to the back. If it's and towards the back, you can run it that way.
That's true. That I was going to say drive shaft too, because a lot of people do that. But just check me out on the electrical end. The solar is taking the sun. The solar cells are creating electricity and storing it in a battery.
Right.
So what is the alternator for?
It also charges the battery.
Yeah.
So it's another option to charge the battery.
All right. So the alternator. So that alternator doesn't have to run and produce current all the time.
Right.
Yeah, put
So
on a
then
switch.
you'd want it switched, right?
Yeah.
So there's got to be a commercial switching device, because you're just going to switch the field. Drag race used to do that all the time. They had a switch. They'd have the alternator working. When they got to the line, they'd throw the switch to the alternator. Now is just free spinning, because believe it or not, even when it's under load, it's more of a drag than when it's not. And the drag races wanted every little, or they'd loosen the belt, tricks like that. But you can.
I'm sorry, Ray. The Germans did that because they put a clutch on the alternator.
Well, now the
On
modern newer cars have clutches. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, well, the Germans started doing that back in the mid '80s. I mean, late '80s, early 90s. They started putting clutches on the alternator because that was to reduce drag.
That could be a way. That could be a way to do it too, without switching it. Let the clutch disengage. Use a modern alternator with a clutch, and then it would cut out. You got to look at what
that's why sometimes the guys get bit, because they'll start a car up, and if the battery's charged, if the battery's fully charged or not in the the alternator's not going to put out until you put that's why you got to put a real load on it. So the alternator turns on to start charging, because they'll say, oh, your alternator is only 12.2 or 12.3, because there's no real drag or draw on the system. And that's why you got to crank it up. And of course, guys just jump for the instant, put a tester, oh, it's bad. Then they put another alternator on, and they end up having the same problem.
The same thing.
I mean, usually the specs, you can check charging at idle, but you always want to go up 1,000 RPM, 2,000 RPM, and you want to see if you're getting full charge.
Well, I know. A lot of people hook it to the regular alternator, and it goes to it's called a DC to DC charger.
Okay.
And it trickle charges. It's not a lot of juice going through it. It's just as you're driving, it's throwing a little bit of juice in your batteries. So you're taking advantage of all the options. So if it's not sunny outside, I could start the truck and it'll charge, or I could start my generator and that'll charge. Charge my house battery.
You got to check with the big stereo guys. I don't know if there's some kind of bracket, but it's with a bus, so I don't know what.
Yeah, well, when I was
Well,
in stereo competitions, we had our alternators rebuilt bigger.
Mm.
But that guy died.
Yeah.
He's old. He's old and died. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Who to go to now.
Yeah.
You just have to you could, I mean, that was one of the things, huh?
There's a couple guys that have done it on their buses, but
Yeah, I mean, building a bracket's not that bad. It's not that hard. You just have to find a place. Sometimes in the front of the truck, you don't have space for another alternator. Now, I know that probably has a pretty high hood. Some of them, of course, sometimes it looks kind of funny, but those guys that have two-way radios, the
ham radio.
hand radios, those hand radios. I mean, I know a buddy of mine, he's got 4 alternators. It's in a bigger truck, it's in a Suburban, but it's got the hood's high in it, the way the motor sits and everything. He's got a lot of room. He's got 4 alternators right across. You open it up and you're like, what the F? Because all you see are alternators. And the way he built the bracket.
Yeah, Brian,
the way
I
he
think
built the bracket.
last week I think I sent you a link on Instagram about a guy with a stereo truck that the guy had speakers under the front bumper pointing down. He had them under the back of the.
Oh, yeah, I
this
saw
truck
that.
had. It was ridiculous. And he had
Everywhere.
under the hood was nothing but alternators.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to push the juice. Yeah, so I'm gonna do some research on it. I think I can do it.
Yeah, as far as pumping up an alternator for more output, I found out I used to rebuild them, and we used to find out because we would just pull everything apart, and all the plates, front plates, rear plates went in the wash, and the armatures went over here, and the stators went over there, and then you end up checking everything electrically, and you just put them back together in some other order. They never go back together the way they came apart. They don't, unless a guy brings in a one and says, I want this one rebuilt.
Yeah.
So we would find out that sometimes, you would test everyone too, and you'd find like sometimes you'd get one that was like a dog, and other ones that were like super alternator, and it was just the mixture of parts. It was the rotor and the stator combination that really just clicked, and really had a great output. So when we built them for ourselves for our own cars, we would always do that. We would play around, try and find. We started looking at the rotors, looking at the numbers. We know which numbers were more favorable. We keep some of them off to the side for ourselves, and
cool.
And then you can kick it up. The other thing is the regulator. Because an alternator puts out AC. It's an AC motor, is really what it is. Mm-hmm. So you got to take that AC and turn it into DC. That's the job of the rectifier. It takes it and chops off the tops of the wave and makes it DC. And then the regulator, of course, regulates it at the voltage that's recommended for the car. Usually, like 13, maybe like 13.5, 13.6 volts tops, maybe 14,
Okay. Well, I'll let you know if I get it done.
And you could go with, if you really want to go heavy duty, you could go with like a truck alternator. They're still using big ones. Lisa DeVille always used the big ones, like on the ambulances and the fire trucks. They use some whopping freaking alternators.
Yeah.
They weigh a ton.
Yeah, that's
Now you get like what we call the pineapple alternators. It's a little thing like this, like the size of a grapefruit, and it puts out 165 amps.
Yeah.
So
I might do some research. It might be cheaper just to buy a bigger alternator, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might have to watch the bracket, because that was the problem that I had with the tool truck. Because the tool truck I had a 250 amp alternator, and because it only had one alternator, mine only had one. Some of the trucks have two. So when I had problems with the alternator, I was out on the route. I just called up the auto parts store and said, "Hey, I got a NQR 2015. I need an alternator. Do you have one?" And the guy goes, "Yeah." Well, I didn't think much of it, and I said, I'm the tool guy. But like, oh yeah, okay, no problem, Brian. Where are you at? When next guy out, I'll have him drive by where you're at. So I'm sitting on the side of the road, and here comes the guy, and he drops off the alternator. And I said, I'll bring the core by, and he said, okay, no problem. Well, I pulled it out, and I'm like, fuck, dude, this is too small. So I called him back, and I said, is this the right thing? And he's like, yeah. And then I realized, because they actually had, I started looking at the bracket. They built the bracket to the factory bracket. So I had to undo the bracket that they made to put the alternator onto the factory bracket, and then put it back in the truck and got the belt and got it running. But I noticed,
You're lucky that they didn't weld it together.
Yeah, well, luckily it was, like I said, it was bulk, because it was just a kit. They get that truck from the factory, the people that do our conversion, and they just had the kit, and they just put, bolt it all up, bolt the new alternator in, and all that stuff. And same with the AC, because I run dual ACs, one for the front and one for the back, and that had a special bracket. So, like when I sold my other Isuzu, I stripped all that off. So, like I said, I got a box full of all those parts if I ever need them for mine, or if, like I said, the day mine goes, I got a radiator for my Isuzu and everything. I mean, I got all that stuff sitting here if I need it. But, again, luckily I was able to figure out, and I changed. Now, the only thing that I did notice is that I had to really bump the idle up if I was running the AC and running everything in the back, because I didn't have enough I didn't have enough juice for everything going on in the back. And so I took, of course, then I said, well, I can't get rid of this alternator because I need to send this out to get it rebuilt. So luckily I had another core, wink, wink, from another car, and put that in. Probably pissed the guy off when they went to go rebuild it. It ain't really a Isuzu alternator, but going along the line, that's the only thing you'll have to be careful about. I'll have to ask my guys at the school bus spot, at the depot, what size alternator those things have on it. That's what it was. It was a school bus, a pusher, right?
Yeah. Oh, no. Mine's conventional.
Oh,
dog nose.
Cool. Oh. Yeah. I'll have that. Like 2000 what? 2003.
2003. I think I got room under there. I got a lot of space.
Yeah, you got space.
Yeah.
Like I said, you could use one of the smaller Japanese alternators that are literally, like I said, we call them little pineapples. They're close to some of them probably are 200 amp. If you get them out of like a V6 or something, they're crazy.
Yeah.
I tell you, one of the alternators I like the most, I got a liking for them when I rebuilt them, and I actually have one in my Fiat. And Brian, you'll know them. It's the Bosch alternator that has the regulator and brush holder in the back that's removable. Yep. And talk about serviceability. In my car, I noticed my radio was dying. Some weird things would happen electrically. And then I finally said, you know what? Put a gauge on this thing, and I checked it. I'm like, yeah, the charging system is wonky. And it was the regulator. So it's 2 screws on the back, 2 straight slot screws. You take those off. The regulator and brush holder comes out as one piece. You buy that. It was like $40. You don't have to preload the brushes or anything. You just drop it in, tighten the screws, done. Talk about serviceable. That is one damn nice alternator.
Well, we used to, back in the day, all the alternators were like all the ones on the Porsches and Audis. So they were all rebuildable. We rebuilt them all.
Sure.
And even if you had to get inside and put a diode plate in or anything like that,
right?
It was really, it was very simple. The biggest thing was you just had to remember when you took it apart, how it was clocked.
Right.
How the how the
But, you know,
alternator was clocked
You
because
could mark it before you take it apart.
yeah, I mean, but sometimes you know how us guys are. We're all
That's the
cocky.
second one.
It's only gonna be
The second one you do that too, because the first one after you can't figure. Well, the other way is usually sometimes the ears will tell you the story. But
yeah.
what was I going to say?
But I used to love because then you see the guy over there and he goes to put it in. Of course, they're a pain in the ass because they're always ducked down on the lowest part of the car or someplace not accessible. But then you see him over there, got to pull back out, and he's walking over to the bench because he's got to spin it, to 3 o'clock or whatever because he thought that he could remember how it went.
Well, that's the gripe I always had with Ford. GM and Chrysler always had the alternators up on top. Ford had to put it down low, below all the leaky oil seals. It's like, why the hell you got to adjust it from under the car? You couldn't do it from on top. It's like, why who the hell did they have? Whose better idea was that?
Yeah, that was. And then some of them, every once in a while, you got really lucky because you could reach inside and reach up in there and change that regulator.
Oh,
and you didn't have to pull it all apart. That was really nice. Made some money that day.
Yeah, that's an oddball when you can do that because you got to get those screws out. They use straight slot screws, which was interesting.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a nice alternator. I remember, when I did mine, I took it off the car. I wanted to clean it up, so I took it apart. And I did what I did in a rebuilding shop. I painted the plates aluminum, like cast aluminum, painted the fan and the pulley blacks, painted the stator red, put it back together, painted the bolt heads black. I brought it into the radio station. And, my partner Chris says, "Damn, you bought a new alternator?" I'm like, man, this is rebuilt in my garage. It's like, all you need is the right spray paint.
Yep.
Well, the other parts were good. So, and I mean, I know places that used to spray good units without rebuilding them and sell them as rebuilt. That went on, but no, we used to literally take every one apart.
I knew a transmission shop that used to do that.
Yep.
They would pull a transmission from a junkyard, tell the guy it's rebuilt, charge him whatever millions of dollars. And I had said something to the guy one time. I was like, "Dude, how do you sleep at night?" And he goes, "Okay. I mean, I don't have a problem." And I was like, "Well, dude, why don't you just fix it?" He goes, "Look, the odds. Look, I offer I can offer whatever, a 5-year warranty, 100,000-mile warranty, whatever it is." He goes, "If I do 3 of these in a day, I've made so much more money. And if I do have a problem, we can fix it. But, we're just playing the odds of we're collecting all that money up front. And if the guy has a problem in his warranty time period, oh, well, we fix it. But other than that, I'm like, man, you'd definitely be looking over your shoulder walking in the alley, dude, if somebody heard that."
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you got to make it when you can make it, I guess.
Yeah, well, there's a part of that making it, but dude, that's
Yeah.
I don't know.
Lewis, I see you you're doing some Amazon affiliate links now.
Yeah,
A little store there.
I'm part of my little hustle, retirement hustle. Instead of working at Walmart, I'll hustle.
Yeah, exactly. I did the same thing.
The same thing because
you might as well.
We're always using tools, equipment, products that we like, and even solvents and stuff, and it's a good way to get the word out, and you get a little piece of it if somebody buys it.
Yeah, I mean, I make, I can't quit my job, but I make extra cash on it. It's almost a car payment, so I'm like, it's not bad.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a Amazon influencer and affiliate.
Yep.
So I can do the videos and affiliate program.
Yeah. Yeah. All you do is just take videos of everything, Just
Yeah.
throw look trash cans and put it up.
You
Doesn't
know,
matter.
so let me ask you a question. Amazon from time to time has sent me an email and said, "Hey, how'd you like to be an Amazon, have an Amazon store, be an Amazon like vendor?" I'm like, "Wow, that'd be really cool to sell stuff through Amazon." But they never really, I didn't pursue it far enough. I don't know if you can do only new stuff or if you could sell used stuff as well. Because I've never seen any used stuff on Amazon.
I'm not sure on that. I've never seen it.
I got a ton of used stuff that's like good, like somebody would want, good usable stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think.
Ray, in your case, I would eBay everything so you don't have to move it.
Yeah.
That would have been my go-to, but then everybody I talk to who does it says, screw eBay. They're taking so much money now.
They take so much money, dude. It's
See,
not,
everybody says the same thing.
personally, until they get their shit together and get on it, I would do the Facebook marketing. Put it out on Facebook marketing, but eventually they're going to nail you for it because everybody. I mean, that's what everybody jumped over to Facebook or.
Yeah, including all the scammers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You have to weed your way through the scammers that just want to give you a code and have you text them back and all other crap, and it's like
I've never had any problem. Usually, everything that I've ever done, or actually, I shouldn't say me. My wife has gone pretty quick and hasn't had too much problem. The biggest problem is with the eBay. They started collecting your sales tax, and you got to report. And you get a 1099,
Right.
and you get all. If you get over $600, you have to claim or blah blah blah. However it goes, because God forbid you make a little extra money with nobody knowing about it.
Right.
And but don't get me started on that because we're still alive. But
Yeah.
going along the line, they'll eventually get into the other platforms because that's where everybody's jumping into. Especially if you get into a form, a GTO thing or old Chevy parts or whatever, the stuff. Like I said, the stuff that I've on a couple Porsche ones, and I've said, hey, I got this, and the guy, you get a guy saying, I want it, and no problem, send me the money, and I'll send it to you. So,
yeah.
Well, it's like I told you, I could take a guy's Hotel Riviera with a bench seat and convert him to bucket seat console with the correct steering column. I got all the parts.
Yeah, that stuff has to be like Facebook Marketplace because that's going to be local. You don't want to ship any of that stuff.
No, that's that.
Yeah.
Along with the other stuff, I have 7 car doors I want to sell, 2 rear ends. Let's see, I got 2, maybe 3 engines that I should get rid of. Heads,
rear window.
Well, I got the rear window. I got the rear window for the Riv. You're right, and I have a glass rear window for a convertible Challenger. So I have 2 windows. Actually, no, and I have a rear glass window for a '67 GTO too, convertible.
Oh God,
Jim, that's scratching the surface, dude. I mean, I'm not even. I'm like, I could just believe me. That's just not even. That's just I'm just talking big stuff. That's like too big to drag to the swap meet and drag back. It's just
I got some G8 doors, and I had a friend that his G8 got wrecked, and then he bought a Ute, took all the engine parts and all the drivetrain, put it into Ute, and then he was moving, and nobody would come pick up the shell of a car. That was rear-ended, and he had all the doors and stuff. He had doors and stuff on it. He goes, "You want it?" I go, "Yeah, sure." And I hauled it to my house, tried selling some parts. I think I sold seatbelts. That was it. But I sold the seatbelts, and since it was in a crash, they didn't work. I play with them. I go, I don't know. It seems like they might be stuck, but they're in the wrong direction, or who knows, right? Because they weren't mounted to the car. The guy mounted them to the car. He goes, "They don't work." I go, I'll just give you your money back.
wow.
Just keep the things. I'm like, and I really didn't sell anything else off of it. And I took the car. I had the title. Took the car to a scrapyard and got whatever for it. But I was just like,
that's like I don't know if you guys remember. There was an Audi 4000. Audi, same year as mine, 87 4000, but it wasn't a Quattro, so it was a 4-cylinder, not the 5-cylinder, automatic, just basic car. But the guy had brought it in. It didn't start. Needed a distributor, I think. It needed a distributor module and so forth, some stuff. So they pushed it outside and they set it right by the service manager's window to his office. And I used to get the shit all the time. He's like, Brian, you can't park your car there, because it was the same color as my car. And he thought it was my car. And I'm like, dude, I'm not parked. That's not me. He goes, dude. And of course, he goes, just because you've been here forever doesn't mean you get to have the first parking space, And of course, I was always there before everybody, and I left after. So the car, he'd come to work. The car's there. He'd leave. The car's there. So he thought it was mine. So one day I was running late, or I was late coming into work, and he's sitting at his desk, and I drive by and wave. And I'm driving my Quattro, and of course that car's sitting there. And he's like, comes out and he goes, that's not your car. And I said, no, I told you it wasn't my car, dude. The guy didn't want the work done. He goes, that car's been sitting there like for a year. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, do you want it? And I'm like, what am I going to do with it? And then I thought, oh, it's the same color. So if I ever hit a deer, I just swap out the body pan, I just, because it was straight, So I said, yeah, sure. So, send it to the house. So he sends it to the house. And then I get the phone call from the wife. What are you doing home? I'm not home. Well, I drove by and the car's there. And I'm like, no. You got another car? And I was like, well, it's not going to be there long. Don't worry. So, I stripped it. I stripped all the switches. I stripped everything that I could strip out of it. And I had everything hanging by one bolt, the hood, the fenders, the door. So I finally found this guy. I had to get a title. And so I had a guy come tow it. And of course, the guy shows up and I'm like, I got to take a few things off of it. And the guy's like, okay, yeah, no problem. Of course, it was like bolt, bolt, bolt. And the fenders, door, everything falls off. He's like, dude, you're not leaving me much here. And I said, I know. I'm sorry, but there. So he takes the car off. And so I drag all this stuff out. I put it in the shed. Man, I'm telling you, every time I had to get something out of the shed, I had to move a fender and a hood, a door, this stuff all over the place.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I can't take this. So there was another guy, Gus. He was our front end alignment guy. He had a red one, or his wife had a red one. So he calls me one day. He says, man, do you still have those Quattro parts? My wife was in an accident and I can't find anything. And I'm like, Gus, come get the shit. Just come get it. You can have it all. Well, I just need a fender. And I said, no, dude, you get it all.
Fender door, you getting
I'm tired
everything.
of moving the shit around. So he comes out. I load up his stuff, load up everything. Just give it to him because I'm done. I'm tired of moving this thing around. Literally a week later, my wife backs into my car and takes out. So guess who spent the time looking to try to find a door?
Oh, yeah.
Fender.
That's what happens.
So
terrible.
So is ready to get rid of it. All right, guys, I got a bail.
All right,
Jim.
Jim.
All right,
Have a good
Jim.
week.
See ya.
Okay, guys. See you next week.
that was awesome. So, and all I could do was just laugh. I mean, all I did was I was like, and I remember Brianna was like, "You're taking this really well." It's just the way that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Hey, what can you do? Yeah.
She, she didn't mean it. I mean, like I said, it wasn't intentionally. It's just, but I thought about that because actually the funny part was, I had a deer hit me one time in my Audi, and we're cruising along on 95. I'm coming off the off ramp, and this deer comes up over, and I had the window down, the driver's window down, and he comes up, and his head comes into the car, and I'm 60 miles an hour, and this deer's right here, and I duck over, and the B pillar or the window pillar, for the door hit, smacks him. And when it did that, this deer sinus issues like slobbers and spit all over me. I mean, it was just like this, gross. It was just everywhere in my beard, all over. And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like, trying to pull off the side of the road. And I look up, and the deer is like spinning around on its four legs. And this this young girl driving a caravan hits this deer. I mean, just right into it. Just bam! Deer explodes. And, she fumbles off to the side of the road. And of course, I'm like, get out of the car, and I run over. And of course, I got this shit all over me, this slimy. I mean, I'm like, are you okay? She goes, you're still alive. You're still alive. I thought I hit you. She thought she ran over me. It was the deer, Of course, I got this stuff all over. Oh man, it was a mess. So, we get there, she calls somebody and the police get there, it was just like, so I get done. I was going up to the warehouse to get stuff up in Elk Ridge. I walk in and everybody's like, what the hell happened to you? Because I got this shit all over. I was like, dude, where's the restroom, man? I'm like trying to stunk like you would not believe, dude. But that was a hell of a mess. That broke the mirror. The only thing that broke on that was my mirror, the side mirror.
And I guess that caravan was freaking probably totaled.
Oh, caravan was destroyed. Yeah. I mean, when she hit that deer, and of course I come running up right after that, like, are you okay? And she's like, you're alive. You're alive. I ran you over. I said, no, that was a deer. And she goes, no, I hit you. And she kept telling the cop that she ran over me, and the cop's looking at me. And of course, I got this slimy shit all over me, Yeah. And I'm like, no, the deer head came through my window. And of course, he's like looking at the car. And of course, you can see where the fur was on the parts. And of course, when the deer spun around, it shit all over the car. The car's got shit all over. It's got this snot all inside. It was a nasty mess, man. It was a bad movie, man. I tell you, it was just.
No, I'm a bear. I'm not a deer.
Yeah,
makes you think.
But that poor girl, she was so freaked. She goes, "I ran him over. I ran that guy over."
She thinks she'll be alive after she hit you like that.
Still alive.
Yeah.
Is yours a 2-door or 4-door, Brian?
It's a 4-door. It's a sedan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't remember. In high school, I had a friend, and it was an Audi 4-door. I don't know which. So I was in high school in '89. So it was probably like an '86 car or whatever. But he had an Audi. And every time I think it was just front wheel drive. Every time he's turning, it's clicking like crazy. And I'm like, dude, I go, are you gonna fix that? What is that? This is, I barely knew anything about cars. He goes, I don't know, something in the front end is making this clicking noise. So this one night we're just cruising around, and he was cruising, going up and down, and I pass. I'm going this way. I come back and I see him on the side of the road. I'm like, what happened? He goes, I don't know. There's all these ball bearings all over the place. I'm like,
pulled the CV joint apart.
You went busted. I'm like, how you gonna fix that? He goes, I don't know. I'm gonna get it towed. I was like, yeah. Maybe you should have fixed the clicking noise.
Yeah, he was telling you. You're clicking for a reason.
Clicking for a reason.
Yeah,
I'm waiting on my Bolt. I'm sure I'll probably break a axle on that thing. 'cause I beat on it too much.
Yeah.
I'm always going around turns. Brrr, and
I
just-
had a Audi Fox. I had
Oh, yeah.
gotten that way. I tell you, I didn't do much with it. It was one of those things that I got, and I kind of moved it around. It was a 75, 74, maybe 73 Audi Fox. They weren't very popular. Powder puff blue with white interior, dude.
I just saw a powerful blue Volvo today.
Yeah, I tell you, and I gotten that. It was at the shop. It came in, and the axle had broken, and the guy was like, "I'm done putting money in this thing," and so I just had to pay the tow bill, and brought it home, put an axle in it, and I never really did anything with it. I wish I'd kept it because it was.
That's what's funny when a guy abandons a project or a car and says, "I'm done putting money into this car," and the next guy says, "You know what? I'm going to start putting money into this car."
Yeah. Well, they fixed almost everything. They
Yeah.
got sick of it at the end.
Well, that's why mechanics always had the upper hand because, you've probably seen them before, you've worked on them, that.
Oh yeah, I worked on that car a dozen times.
And you probably know that, like the issue isn't as bad as this guy as it seems to him. So, big deal, and that's what you make out picking up another guy's.
That
project.
was the start. That was the start of. I hadn't gotten fully into the German stuff yet. Because I was driving my Scout. I mean, I was between the Scout and the Mustang, and I was like, oh yeah, well, I'll just get a little beater, and I'll do this, Fox. 'Cause, I mean, I only had $80 in it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's all I had in the car, and I figured, oh yeah, and then I can't remember. Because then I bought my GT. So I had the GT, I had the 66, I had the Scout. Then I got the 84 convertible. I got my convertible. And finally, my dad said something. He was like, dude, you got to do something with one of these cars. And because like I said, the Audi was gone. And I ended up. As soon as the Audi was gone, I think I ended up with my other Audi. I had the Quattro. I had the diesel. I had a 4000 diesel. I had a 4000 Quattro. I had a guy that blew the Well, he didn't blow the transmission up. He had a transmission issue, but it was a GTI. It was what was that thing? It was a Euro. It was a gray market car, and it was the new 16 valve or new 20 valve. It was because it was a 5-cylinder, and it had the split manifold. It was a Euro car. It was a Ricardo. It was a Ricardo something edition. It had Ricardo seats, had big brakes. And it wasn't all the U.S. cars were sunroof cars. This was a non-sunroof 2-door, super rare because that everybody was here was sunroof and 4 doors,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a Volkswagen. It was like a GTI or a Rabbit type thing, a Golf body style. I wish I still had that car. Some kid came by, saw that, he bought that car. And he goes, oh, you can find. I couldn't find a transmission anymore. The transmission was cracked, so it would leak. So I had to take the speedometer gear out, and I had a funnel, and you had to fill it up and go drive it around and just keep filling the trans up. So I told him, I said, dude. He goes, oh, you can find a transmission, and I was like, dude, you can't find this transmission, dude. I mean, I work at a dealer, and you can't. They don't have this transmission, and because it was a gray market car, and So he comes back 2 days later and says, "Dude, I can't find a train. I don't want this car." I said, "You bought it, dude. It's your fucking car."
You told him, yeah.
And he's like, "Dude, I can't find transmission." And I said, "Well, keep filling it up because that's what I had to do." And so a couple days go by. He showed up. He showed up back at the house, and he's like, "Dude, the transmission blew up." I'm like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I don't know how stupid you are. I kept telling you. So he goes, "Yeah, I forgot to put fluid in it."
That'll do it.
That was a really nice car. I wanted to strip that car out because the seat. It was all Ricardo leather stuff, nice seats. Had the seats like inlaid in, and then had little Ricardo signs written in the center.
had
You know how
that.
those Germans are, huh?
My Camaro had Recaro seats in it.
Oh yeah, you know how
Yeah,
the Germans, they do that crazy stuff. So
When you said Fox, I didn't know Audi made a Fox because I was thinking of Fox. You know, I was thinking of the Volkswagen Fox. Yeah, and then I looked. I'm like, no, this was
an Audi. Yeah, Audi 5 was like 72 or
Oh.
73.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then my brother had a Volkswagen Fox station wagon.
Hmm.
And that's when he was living up in Ray's neighborhood up in Brooklyn. And he would forget to move the car from one side to the other side. And so it would get towed. And it would be like towed like all the way upstate and Connecticut or something. And he would spend all fucking day to go get his car and $1 million and all this bullshit. So, and of course the car had gotten, he got to the point where he just left it unlocked because, somebody would break into it all the time. Every window had been replaced in it.
Oh my
And, he had no radio because that had gotten stolen once. So there was no radio. He would leave the glove box door down, and he would literally had a sign. There's nothing in the car.
Yeah.
So one time, I tell you, man, this is awesome. This is only in New York, right? And it was a two-door wagon. It was a two-door wagon, 5-speed, 4-cylinder. And so Sean remembers. That's my brother. He remembers. He goes, "Oh man, I got to move the car." So this is like 2:30 in the morning. So he runs down, jumps in the car, goes to start it, and all of a sudden his head pops up from the back of the car. One of the street people the homeless were sleeping in the car.
Yeah.
So
They do that.
they all scream like little girls. They all scream. And this guy, of course, who knows what he's covered in, but he like jumps over. And of course, it's a 2-door. So he's all over. I think my brother had sex. He doesn't know because all kinds of shit's going on. And out the door, the guy got, but my brother said, "That's it, dude.
Wow.
The car's got to come home." So the car comes home, and my dad's like, "Dude, I don't want this thing sitting in front of my house." So I drove that. I drove that car. That was a great car. And it was funny because it was 1.6, I think. And it only had something like 120 horsepower or something.
Yeah.
It was like super rated low, And I couldn't figure out. And I was like I was getting the parts manuals. I was looking at the microfiche, and it had like the big the big injectors. The ECU was coded the same. It had all the stuff for the 2-liter motor, the 180 horsepower motor car or whatever. And I couldn't figure out. I'm like, dude, I can't believe it's tuned. I mean, this is like before all that stuff, Yeah. And I was like messing around with it. And this other guy, he goes, "Oh, yeah, you got to take the donut out of the exhaust." And I was like, "Take the donut out of the, what the fuck are you talking about?" So I go and look. Sure enough, they had a steel plate that knocked the exhaust down to only 1 inch.
Oh wow.
They were having so you had a 1 and, whatever it was, 1 3/4 or, 1 and, almost 2 inches, 1 7/8 or whatever. but then they had the center of the donut was only
Yeah.
about an inch.
Talk about a
And
restriction.
yeah, it was one. So I got the grinder out. I mean, the die grinder, and opened that pig up, boy. And that was like a great bait, man. That thing ran like there was no tomorrow.
Wow.
My brother came home and drove because when he came home, he had the car. You know, I had to take the car back over. He's like, "Man, what the hell did you do to this car? This car's never been this fast." And I was
Well,
like,
yeah,
"Yeah,
took it out of
a
Brooklyn.
little bit." And so, and then we had a icy winter wonderland one day, and I went up to get Chinese, and whip him through town, through the intersection, and this lady decides to stop right in the middle of the intersection, and man, I pounded her right in the ass, dude. Pushed her car all the way across the intersection, and she gets out and she goes, "Where's the truck that hit me?" And she sees this little Volkswagen.
Did you tell your wife that when you got home? Did you explain to her that
man,
when
it
you got
was
home?
Yeah. Right in there.
Yeah, I want to tell you something, dude. There was Chinese food all over that fucking car, dude. You thought that it was a bad experience, man, because there was egg foo young and every there was shit everywhere because it exploded and went all over the place. So, and the funny part, well, it wasn't really funny because it took the end of it. When the front cover, I mean the radiator support got pushed back as it was running, it was cutting the timing belt.
Oh wow.
And I said, I want to go turn the car off. And as soon as I went over to turn the key, it went clunk clunk and bent all the valves.
Oh,
Wiped it out, and it was done. I wish, man, that was a great little car. Loved it. Carried everything. Put, like I said, 2-door wagon.
Good old junk. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great car.
I had a Ford Escort wagon when I was repoing. One of the banks didn't pick it up, so I took it. I owned it, and I had all my repo stuff in the back to do semis. So I'd pull up to a semi and get all my tools and hit it right. I love that car, man. And one day I'm driving. I just come out of Kentucky Fried Chicken. I got the 2 kids in the car with me, and a guy comes out of the gas station and side swipes me.
Oh,
Tore that
jeez.
car up, man. I was so mad. I love that car. It was good on gas. Pulled all my tools in the back. I took my chicken in the ambulance with us.
Yeah.
Was not leaving my chicken.
The last time I got hit, I guess it's about 2003. I had an Olds Silhouette minivan, the Dustbuster with
I
that.
had one of those
Yeah.
too.
And I come out of my block. Actually, I was a couple blocks. So I was parked in front of the deli. I got my stuff, going to work. See, going to work's always trouble. I pull away from the curb. There's nobody coming. And I had to cross, and there was a side street right to my right, and there was another side street on the other side of the street, but offset by maybe 10 feet. So I start driving, and this woman, she came down that other street, must have been doing about 80, I don't know, crossed the main road, but when I turned my head to look, all I saw was this BMW grill,
Oh, jeez.
like 2 feet away from me. Boom! She punches me in the door, sends me up into the auto parts store parking lot. Whoa! I can't get out of the door. It's jammed. I get out the passenger side. I come around. She caved in the side of the minivan. And she caved in her. And of course, she was rushing to get to the train station. Oh, I have to go.
Yeah.
Mom, look at pick my husband up. I was like,
That's
lady,
right.
you ain't going anywhere fast
Yeah.
now.
That van is all fiberglass too.
I didn't know that until
Oh,
then.
really? I didn't know that either.
So
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. It pushed the door in, broke the fiberglass, and pulled it away on top. So I had to duct tape it to keep the water and stuff out. So I had a buddy of mine who's a body guy look at it, and I said, "You think we can get this door to work?" And he says, "No, the way it's hit and bent at that weird angle." He goes, "If it was metal, maybe, but it's fiberglass skinned. I don't think so." So I just drove it like that, and I got it in and out of the other side. I sold it to a friend of mine who said, "Oh, dude, how come you never fixed the door?" I said, my other buddy told me it couldn't do it. He goes, I'm going to get that done. And this guy was not a body man. Well, he did. He fixed it. He got that door working. I said, I am amazed. I'm amazed.
Yeah.
But yeah, when something's coming at you at the speed of sound, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Happens
So
fast.
that's why I don't see those things rusted out.
Exactly. That
Yeah.
the Pontiac Transport was the same
Yep,
van.
that's right. Yep.
Brian, you were talking about having a car in Brooklyn. Just the other day, I was out with my buddy Kevin, and we had to go do some running around. He goes, "Listen, I'm going to buy you lunch for your birthday, so let's go." All right, so we go to this Chinese place. It's downstairs in the basement. So I pulled into the back parking lot, and I had to come the top up because it was a little drizzly. But I'm just going to jump out of the car, and he's like, "Aren't you going to put up your window?" I'm like, "No." He's putting up his window. He said, "Should I put mine up?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Why not?" I said, "Well, I don't think it's going to rain." I said, "You don't lock your door either." I said, "It's a convertible." I said, "I learned a long time ago.
Yeah.
I'd rather have somebody open the door and go through my glove box and take the cassettes that I have if they want them, because, and my cigars, instead of ripping my top with a knife,
Yeah.
open the door. I'm not locking. There's nothing here to steal."
Right.
He's like, "Wow, that's kind of weird." But I said, "Nothing's happened yet. No one's, what are you gonna do?"
Yeah.
I said, "I usually leave it. Yeah, I'll leave it. Usually, if I'm driving with the top down, I'll just,
Leave it
if I'm
down.
gonna go in or I'm gonna do something, just to keep the sun off the seats, I'll just take the top and flap it up and just throw it down. It doesn't even, close onto the header. I'll just leave it like that with the windows open. Like, what are you gonna do? Just don't cut the top, please."
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm gonna jump ship.
All right, so
All right.
we're gonna close up the store,
See ya, YouTube.
and then we'll talk amongst ourselves.
All right.
So, all right. So, even though he's here in the room, we're gonna make believe he's not. For Lewis Lee, we'll be back next week with more Playing in Traffic with Ray Guarino, Macho Man Brian, and of course our buddy Keith Isaac is out doing homework somewhere. He's doing something. He's listening to us on the stream. He said to try and get in when he gets home. We don't know. And good night to my buddy Billy G, who's out in the cloud listening to us too, because he's always out there and he's taking notes, and he's got notes on all you guys. He's got notes on me too.
Oh.
Appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Might not be a
you
good
guys
thing.
Have a good night.
We'll be back next week. We'll do it all
See you
again.
guys. Yep. See you guys.
All right, guys. Good night. Okay.